The first of the darshana is Nyaya. Nyaya is logic, and when a question is asked, how we respond is also using logic. So the first darshana tries to see the truth through logic, and it has limitations because logic is in the domain of our own mind and the perception. So what the tradition will tell you that there is, you want to understand more about it, you study the Nyaya Sutras. Gautama is the great one. So the Nyaya Sutras are there. Like Yoga Sutras, you have Nyaya Sutras. In that, the complete thing is given, and for you to see the logic yourself, that quantifiableness, the seeing, we need to practice. We need to practice that to see that difference. Okay. Then the second system is Vaisheshika. Vaisheshika is mainly two things it deals. One is with the atomic theory, what Niels Bohr's atomic model. These are all expounded by a great rishi called Kannada, long time back. So when we speak about that which appears but it's not, like for example a mirage is there. It appears water is there, but there is no water. Correct? So such things, and why it is like that. So that is expounded because it is slightly more than logic. Because in logic, everything has to be correct. Otherwise, you don't accept. Plus, when the idea of atomic reconfigurations, how an atom looks like, and due to that, the idea of Maya is first time introduced by Kannada there. So then we get an idea of, oh, this is why it is appearing like that. Then comes the Sankhya system, which brings in the yin and yang or Purusha or Prakriti. Because to observe the way even Anaga asked the question, to observe there need to be two things, no, minimum. The third aspect is the process of observing. If you leave alone that, for anything to happen, moment you say happen, you are in the plane of duality. So two things. So it is Purusha and Prakriti, how the world has emerged. This kind of thought process is given in Sankhya. So the system of Ayurveda, Siddha, medicine systems completely derive their support from Sankhya, including yoga. So unless we understand this, what is this dual nature, what is the role of Purusha and Prakriti in the creation, okay, so then based on which some unresolved questions would arise in Sankhya, which Patanjali addresses by introducing the word Ishvara as a special being. Other than Purusha and Prakriti, there is a special being called Ishvara. Correct, no? So this is a different way of quantifying what we see. The only quantifying we have seen is money or some health in the physical level. But this will increase the health across the levels. All the 5 dimensions or the 5 koshas will come into play. So then also, first time, even Patanjali there doesn't bring in the idea of God. Let us understand. There is no idea, it is not mentioned exactly like that. And first time a process is given. In the first 3, we are in the, it's like an embryo stage in our understanding. Then the child is developing the heartbeat in the mother's womb, right? Something like that. Patanjali first time introduces a process that he says the importance of Pranava Japa there. And no other process Patanjali gives the way we can relate to. All the processes mentioned by him are internal processes. But all of us are used to a japa or a mantra, right? So that's the first time we get to have a process which we can relate in the sphere of darshanas. Then from yoga, the Purva Mimamsa portions come. So we know that the Sankhya is the sutras are by Kapila. Patanjali, obviously we know, has done the Yoga Sutras. So all the 6 darshana have a sutra literature named after them only. Nyaya Sutras, Vaisheshika Sutras, Sankhya Sutras, Yoga Sutras, and the Mimamsa Sutras by Jaimini, where all the rituals, anything which is a ritual, anything which is a karma, action, right? You can't perform a ritual without action. Everything is outlined. That is the Purva Bhaga of the Veda. Right from I am not having rain in my location, how can I get rain? To all the house of our life. How will I get married? What are the mantras there? And why I should get married? What is the purpose of my life? Everything is mentioned there. And then comes the ultimate stuff of Vedanta, which takes us from all this, that which is appearing as diverse from the atomic, subatomic, and the manifested level to that very source from which everything else has come. So it's a gradual 6-step process. So the Vedanta Sutras are popularly known as Brahma Sutras. We all know Badarayana or Krishnadvaipayana or Vyasa, correct? So he has done the Sutra literature for that. So where is this quantifiable stuff comes from the tradition. So what the tradition will tell, okay, if you want to experience what Patanjali said, please do this asana for the body, pranayama for the next level, then the meditation for the manaha, then slowly the knowledge of, like how Anaga asked, no, how can we differentiate? So then that is given. Then you are taken gradually into the inner recesses of the mind through processes. So like we saw yesterday, we have to put in years of study. But one thing also to understand is, we don't know, maybe you might have started this study from which life we don't know. So there are times when some topics or some areas will click like that already. Maybe the homework was done, if not this life, sometime before. In some areas, it would take some time. So the number of years also we say as a measure, because people need that measure. Like Malcolm Gladwell will tell in Outliers, 10,000 hours of work you need to put in. So when you combine that with Karma Siddhanta, out of the 10,000 hours of work you need to put in any field to become an expert, if 7,000 to 8,000 work has been already put in your previous life, that's why we see a lot of Nachiketa and Prahaladas also amongst us. That which already work is done just sprouts out like knowledge. So that is why in our system there is nothing called linear. It's all continual process, the accumulation of that process. And to arrive at what could I make it as a quality aspect, what can I take it to my quantity aspect, each individual takes a call. Some of the individuals whom have studied from 2011 have even withdrawn from certain kinds of businesses they were in. They got clarity of which kind of business they have to focus. Some of them have shifted countries, because we have students from 41 countries, no? So something told triggered them. So that's a quantifiable thing which happened to them when they studied, which was supposed to be labeled as a spiritual study or inner journey. That inner journey gave them so much clarity. We have a couple of them who have shifted from Europe to Australia, Australia somewhere. All these things have happened. And there are many people who said, oh, I am not designed to do this. I need to just stay back in a stable job. And then they went back. So the changes will happen when the knowledge and the acceptance of the truth, of the understanding starts flowering within. So exactly we cannot tell the quantifiable stuff like we do asana. Like in asana, the pain point is the low back, for example. We can give some postures which will release us from that pain point and make our back healthy. But when it comes to the inner journey, none of us knows where those pain points and the issues are there. When I say none of us, all of us in the screen, including me. Because we start with the premise, I am not the master, I am not a teacher, I am not a guru, I am a fellow seeker, right? So even if some of you are thinking I know something, I have absolutely no idea of what I know also. Because I have not realized, correct? So the quantification happens when you see the difference that creates in the life. So that is one way of looking at it. So because we are a study group, I can tell you some of the examples which I have given you the last 2 days, I have never known that I know that in my life. I have never studied it. I have never heard it from a teacher. So how would you quantify it? You can't quantify it because that is a validation that yes, knowledge is within you. That's the ultimate.
I think what happens is as you raise in your level of awareness and as you go deeper inside and you start withdrawing, become a witness, become an observer of things that are happening near you, around you. And somebody asks a question, or like in the last couple of days, the last week, that I've been fortunate to be part of this group and the other group. When you have said things and you just told us that you're not even aware that you know those things, I think those answers pop into your head because of you're closer to realization than you know, or you're higher up in your level of awareness than us. So those answers automatically pop into your head. So, for example, the question that Angada asked, how do I know that I have reached certain things? You continuously ask questions and validate those questions, but ask those questions with the serious intent of reaching your dharma, defining what your dharma is, I think is more appropriate than reaching your dharma. I don't know what my dharma is. So, but to reach that dharma, to at least find out what it is, you continuously have to ask questions. And as you start rising higher in this knowledge system that Indian philosophy has laid out, the 6 legs of Indian philosophy that you have so beautifully identified, we have to take care of 2 things. First of all, we have to make sure that physically we are healthy. I think that is where the asanas come into play. Because if you have problems with your health, obviously you're going to be focused on that health, and that will prevent you from rising higher in your awareness. So I think that's the first step. The second step is obviously control your breathing. That basically brings your body in sync with the rest of the environment around you, the global environment. And the third step is meditation, and figuring out that will help us figure out, that will help us in our withdrawal process. And the last step, which is something that we have to do as human beings, is we are all born into certain sampradayas, certain disciples, certain disciplines. If I was a follower of Muhammad, I mean, I would be praying 5 times a day, and you don't see them give that up. As a Brahmin, I have to do Sandhyavandanam 3 times a day. That's a given, and that will help us. That regularity helps us, and I think it was you told us in one of your sessions. I don't know if it was yesterday or day before yesterday or in the morning session. That also helps us with our regularity in life, because if you do it as a routine, it becomes, what is it? You said do it for 21 days, it becomes a habit. So if you do it, it becomes a habit, and if you don't do it, you feel that something is lost. But if you do it, you get the appropriate karmas. But when you do it, you have to do it with full faith and total concentration into what you do. Now I'll keep quiet.
Yeah,